Fleek is a website allowing people to host files on the Interplanetary File System, or IPFS. IPFS is a new hotbed for hosting phishing sites. IPFS as a technology is both resilient to censorship and takedowns, making it a double-edged sword. Underlying it is a peer-to-peer network which replicates content across all participating nodes, so that even if content is removed from one machine, requests for the resources can still be served via other systems. It shows how extremely careful it is to extremely important it is to be careful to scrutinize email links before clicking them. On to this month's emerging threats. In the personal protection section of last month's threat brief, we discussed a ransomware campaign targeting home users with Magniber ransomware. This month, our deep dive topic takes a look at one of the unique security measures being bypassed during a Magniber and many other attacks. I'm sure many of you have seen these types of warnings before. Something you probably encounter daily is documents or files that you downloaded from the internet or received in an email opening with a protected view banner. Many of you probably know the banner is a safety measure that can protect against malicious activity from taking place. All of these warnings and these banners show up because of an underlying Windows process called Mark of the Web. When a file downloaded from the internet, including as an email attachment, Microsoft will add a special Mark of the Web flag to the file through zone identification tagging. This identifies and marks documents and executables downloaded from the internet as untrustworthy. The mark instructs other applications to treat the documents with suspicion and open them in protected view. Mark of the Web flags prevent certain actions and or initiate warning messages. Mark of the Web flag files are processed in Microsoft Defender. You can see if a file has a Mark of the Web flag at the bottom of the properties of the file window. Some software will not give Mark of the Web flags. For example, files downloaded using Git client, including through PowerShell, will not be flagged. Here you can see someone downloaded a file from GitHub using Git client through PowerShell and then checked for the Mark of the Web flag, and there is none. Threat actors can use container files like virtual hard drives to conceal the malicious payloads. They can also use social engineering in order to persuade potential victims into enabling macros or placing files into trusted directories that enable macros, as we will see in the next slide. In the latest round of Emotet attacks, XLS files were sent with fraudulent instructions to place the files in the templates folder, which is considered to be trusted by XL. So it will run the macros by default. When a user opens a Microsoft Office document containing a Mark of the Web flag, Microsoft Office will open it in protected view, preventing macros that install malware from being executed. However, in the new Emotet XL attachment, you can see that the threat actors are instructing users with this very authentic looking message to copy the file into the trusted templates folders, as doing this will bypass Microsoft Office's protected view, even for files containing the Mark of the Web flag. Copying a file into the templates folder requires administrators' permissions, but when the attachment is launched from the templates folder, it will simply open and immediately execute macros that download the Emotet malware. It is important to be safe and not click to enable the content, which are the macro operations that run hidden in the background if enabled, and not move files from unknown or untrustworthy sources into the templates folder. A currently unpatched 0-day to bypass Mark of the Web affects digitally signed files signed with corrupt Authenticode signatures. Authenticode is a Microsoft code signing technology authenticating the publisher of code. This was discovered during the Magniber ransomware campaign. This enables JavaScript and other executables to run as if they were locally created. The 0-day works on all Microsoft versions prior to Windows 11 22H2. Two other Mark of the Web 0-days were patched on November 8th, 2022. For zip files failing to flag properly, it is extremely important not to download executable files from unknown or untrustworthy sources. One Trojan attempting to bypass the mark of the web, Emotet, is a malware infection distributed through phishing campaigns containing malicious Excel or Word documents. When users open these documents and enable macros, the Emotet DLL will be downloaded and loaded into memory. Once loaded, the malware will search for and steal emails to use in future spam campaigns and drop additional payloads such as Cobalt Strike or other malware that commonly lead to ransomware attacks. Emotet attacks had originally subsided last winter after Microsoft Office started to block macros from running automatically by default if they were flagged as coming from the internet with a mark of the web flag. Another similar Trojan being used for attacks is one of the oldest and most widely spread banking fraud malware named Ursnif, which has been retooled into a generic backdoor that could become another staple for ransomware actors. The first example was found in June, and it was an email with a link to a malicious website that redirects the victim to a site made to look like a very legitimate business, complete with a CAPTCHA challenge to download a Microsoft Excel document supposedly relating to the email's contents. The latest attacks were utilizing carefully crafted spear phishing emails. For example, if the email is about a job offer, the document is said to have information regarding that. Clicking on the document leads to the download and execution of the LDR4 payload. The victim is then given instructions to run macros within the file. The modular malware joins Emotet, CACBOT, among others, as tools that started as banking Trojans but have been repurposed as backdoors without requiring the development effort of creating an entirely new codebase. Ursnif has a fast-changing delivery and command and control infrastructure. Mark of the Web has been in the news a lot lately, especially the past month, as it is constantly trying to be bypassed by threat actors. This quote from Bill Demirokapi at Microsoft shows why it will continue to be a prevailing topic. This is only the beginning. Changes take time. There are still variants and other Mark of the Web issues that we recently became aware of. Although Mark of the Web bypasses do not typically meet Microsoft Security Response Center's bar for servicing, we can make exceptions for issues that are exploited in the wild. Another way attackers are looking to gain access to your data is through consent phishing attacks that trick users into granting permissions to malicious cloud applications. These malicious applications can then gain access to legitimate cloud services and the data of users. Unlike credential compromise, threat actors who perform consent phishing target users who can grant access to their personal or organizational data directly. The consent screen displays all permissions the application receives. Because the application is hosted by a legitimate provider, such as the Microsoft Identity Platform, unsuspecting users accept the terms which grant a malicious application the requested permissions to the data. The image on the left shows an example of an OAuth app that is requesting access to a wide variety of permissions. People should always take great care to verify and consider the publisher of an app being authorized, and organizations should limit the permissions to give such authorizations. Killnet is a pro-Russian hacktivist group that is believed to have formed around March 2022. They are commonly associated with distributed denial of service attacks affecting the availability of systems and resources. On November 4th, 2022, a DDoS attack was carried out on BismarckAirport.com. The site was down for under 1 hour in total, spread across several small outages over part of the day. The website itself was not compromised, nor were any of our systems or client data. There was no evidence found of any attempts at code injection. Killnet's declared targets are federal, state, and local government, airports, marine terminals, and logistic facilities, weather monitoring systems, the healthcare system, metro and transportation systems, banking institutions, and online trading systems and exchanges. Their attacks are expected to continue for the foreseeable future. For this month's personal protection tips, since many people will be traveling through places offering public Wi-Fi for the upcoming holidays, it is important to beware of rogue access points set up by attackers in public places. They're set up easily with devices such as Hack5 Pineapple, which can mimic the public Wi-Fi, or attackers can use their own hotspot to create entirely rogue networks. This can be used to serve as a DNS and take you to spoofed websites with correct URLs. If you are going to connect, use a VPN so that even if you connect to a rogue network or hotspot, or your traffic is sniffed using devices such as the Hack5 Coconut Sniffer, the attacker will be limited in the information he can gather due to the VPN's encryption. If you can, avoid connecting to the public Wi-Fi by using your phone as a hotspot for USB tethering, so you are on your own personal network and safe from lateral attacks and rogue networks. If you do connect, be sure that when you disconnect, you forget the network. That way you do not reconnect automatically in case something has changed on the network and it is no longer secure. It is now possible for users or non-users to remove their unwanted PII from Facebook. User or non-user must go to the link facebook.com/help with this series of numbers and find the click here if you have a question about the rights you may have towards the bottom. This is where the tool shown on the left is located to remove your information. For the fun fact of this month, ransomware attacks against organizations spike 30% during November and December when compared to the rest of the months, and 70% when compared against January and February. Thank you for attending this month's threat briefing. To rehash what we covered, we went over the catch of the month, the emerging threats, and the personal protection section and suggestions. Does anybody have any questions?
So I will give the answers to the poll. So the original question of the day was, what percentage of credential harvesting phishing attacks are directed at public sector employees? And the correct answer is 50%. And with that, I will stop the recording so we can answer some questions.